pal, and welcome to my world. Today, another recent video game pickups video. So we've got 5 games here, 4 for the Sony PlayStation 1 and 1 for the Sony PSP. We'll start off with the PlayStation 1 and we have Disney and Pixar's Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. I love Toy Story 2 on the PS1, it's one of my favourite platform games, one of my favourite PlayStation 1 games. I've never actually seen the TV show that this one is based on, but I figured I would round out my Toy Story PlayStation 1 game collection by picking it up. I've only played the first level so far and it's not quite what I was expecting. I hope it gets better, but I guess we'll have to see. Next up, to add to my ever-growing wrestling collection that just never seems to end, picked up one of my favourite games as a kid. It's not the best wrestling game out there, but it's certainly a lot of fun, and that is WWF In Your House. This is one of the more arcade fighty style games, very similar to WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game that came out as also on the PS1, which I need to pick up, and it was also on the Super Nintendo, possibly the Mega Drive / Genesis, but anyway, the PS1 version is the one I want to get. Had this as a kid, loved playing it. I've been after it for a while, but for some reason this and WrestleMania the arcade game on the PS1 always seem to go for quite high prices, especially compared to the other WWE games for the PS1. But I managed to get this for an absolute steal, $4.99. It's usually at the very least double that price, and often when I see it at like £10, it doesn't have the manual with it, or the case is cracked to fuck. This is in great condition, complete with manual. It's a super fun game. I've already played it. I played for about an hour. All I was wanting to do was just test to make sure that the disc actually worked, and I ended up just playing for an hour. Really fun. Some cool special moves in it as well. Next is another Time Crisis game. Picked up a few Time Crisis games recently, and this one I didn't even know was a thing until I saw it a few times at the retro video game market I went to. But for some reason I didn't pick it up while I was there. I don't know why. But I saw it again on eBay really cheap and picked it up. It's Time Crisis Project Titan. And it's a Time Crisis game, arcade shooter, you use the gun and you shoot the fuck out of people. It's fun, what more do I need to say? And lastly for the PS1 is World's Scariest Police Chasers. It's basically Driver, but you're the policeman chasing the crazy criminals, and there's also weapons as well. It just looks like a really fun game. I heard good things about it despite never really actually hearing about it before. I just sort of stumbled across it and people say, hey, this is a really fun game, get it. So again, found it really cheap, complete with manual, good condition, and I've been playing through mainly just the tutorial levels now. Kind of like with Driver, you have to complete the tutorials before you can get into the main missions, but even the tutorials are actually fun on this. So definitely a game I want to really get into playing, finish off the tutorial levels and get into the proper missions and see what it's properly like. Finally, for the PSP, Final Fantasy. I have never played a Final Fantasy game before in my entire life. It's crazy. The last few years I've been really getting into JRPGs. Obviously I've been playing RPGs for years now. My first ever one was Pokemon Silver on the Game Boy Color back in like 2000, 2001, whenever it actually came out over here. And I played other RPG games, Diablo 2 on the PC was a big one at the time, Sacred also on the PC. Obviously they're not Japanese RPGs, but they are RPG games, and I enjoyed the hell out of them. And then recently, like I said, I've been collecting the Dragon Quest series, which I absolutely adore, and just Legend of Heroes, Trails in the Sky 1 and 2 on the PSP as well. Jesus Christ, they are utterly fantastic, and I'm so happy that they announced that the third game is getting an English release next year. I'm fucking hyped for that. A little disappointed it'll only be on PC, because I would have liked to have the third one also on PSP, but I understand the other PSP's kind of a dead system, so it doesn't make much sense for them to release it on there. But anyway, yeah, love RPG games, and people are always baffled and amazed that I've never played a Final Fantasy game. And the main reason for me is that Final Fantasy, for most people, especially over here, nobody really knew about it until Final Fantasy VII on the PS1. And I never liked the look of it. I don't know, just because the early 3D polygon stuff, I just didn't like it. I still don't like how it looks to this day. And it just sort of put me off playing that for some reason. I just love basically the Super Nintendo style RPG games. That's where it's at. And then, the later ones that come out, I'll look at them, it's just like, the fuck is this mess? And, I've watched video reviews on some of the later ones, it's like, why do people like this game series? These sound awful, they look bad, and the stories sound absolutely ridiculous and just utterly stupid. And, for the gameplay for an RPG just looks awful these days. I don't know if that was like a change they did for a certain few, and then they've gone back to the old stuff. I don't know, but lately I've been sort of thinking maybe I should give the Final Fantasy series a try, but if I do, it's going to be the original ones, the early ones. Basically 1 to 6, when it was still the Super Nintendo 2D overhead style graphics. And I finally gave in, and I thought, okay, Final Fantasy, I'll pick up the original one. And I got the PSP remake here. It's still got those wonderful Super Nintendo style graphics, but just updated to make them more vibrant and whatnot for the PSP. Cool cutscenes, and let's face it, the original sort of Final Fantasy games are just like Dragon Quest games in how they look and play. Essentially, they are essentially sort of the same game nowadays, just the 2D style ones anyway. It's just Dragon Quest looks like Dragon Quest because they have a certain awesome artist designing all the characters. Final Fantasy looks like Final Fantasy, and when they're in 3D it just looks awful. When it's the 2D style it looks pretty cool. So I finally picked it up, and I'm eventually, possibly maybe actually going to even play it. And if I enjoy this one, I'll definitely try and pick up 2 through to 6. Be it on the PSP or the DS. I know a lot of them were released on across both platforms. I don't know if 1 to 6 was released, all of them were released on the PSP or the DS, but I'll certainly try and pick up as many of the older ones as I can, since getting Super Nintendo copies will put me back more money than I can afford. And there we have it, 5 Sony PlayStation and PlayStation 1 and PlayStation Portable games there. Those are my recent pickups. I'll be back soon with another one, as I do have actually even more games already that I could do a video on, but I thought I'll leave this at 5 so it's not too long. The next one, I think there's 9 games in it, so it'll be a bit longer, but I'll try and go through them much quicker. Anyway, I'm bigcal, thanks for watching, I'll see you again next time.